Linda Burney. Please, please stop embarrassing yourself. Stop hoodwinking voters too about your racist voice. Now, Burney is Indigenous Australians Minister. She today gave probably the most disastrous speech I have heard from a politician in years. She gave it at the National Press Club today to sell The Voice, a kind of Aboriginal-only advisory parliament which Labor wants put in our constitution at a referendum this year. Now, I know Burney was desperate. Polls are showing that the more that the Albanese government tries to explain why it wants to divide Australians by race like this and how it's all going to work, the more voters hate what they're hearing. For this speech today, there is still no excuse for something so sloppy and irrational and deceitful. It was so bad, I wonder if it's going to kill The Voice for good. Now, first, of course, Burney tried a guilt trip to get us to back The Voice.
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are 55 times more likely to die from rheumatic heart disease than non-Indigenous people. These deaths are completely preventable.
But right off the bat, Burney was conning the voters. If she, the minister, already knows about this terrible problem, why doesn't she fix it? What is she waiting for? Do we really need a voice? We really need to divide the country by race in the Constitution simply to tell her to fix something she says she already knows about and says is entirely preventable? Well, do your job, Minister. But Burney's biggest con today came when she tried to tackle a great fear about this voice, that it could go nuts, that it's going to be advising federal politicians and public servants on anything at all affecting anyone identifying as Aboriginal, whether it's from, I don't know, taxes to defence policy. Because after all, that's exactly what the constitutional amendment Labor's drawn up says it can do. The Voice can advise on, quote, matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, end quote, no restrictions. Yet Burney said she would tell The Voice to stick to what she wants.
I will ask The Voice to consider 4 main priority areas: health, education, jobs and housing. I will say, bring me your ideas on how we stop our people from taking their own lives. Bring me your ideas on how to help our kids go to school and thrive. Bring me your ideas on how to make sure our mob live healthy, happy lives.
What poppycock? Yeah, sure, Burney can ask The Voice to stick to her issues all she likes and note that she really knows what needs fixing. Well, fix it, Minister. She can ask them to stick to these issues, but The Voice doesn't have to listen to her at all, and almost certainly won't. I mean, Labor's planned constitutional amendment actually gives The Voice the power to advise Burney or any minister on whatever it likes, and for decades to come. And that's for a reason. The activists who designed this Voice that way, deliberately, have already said it wants The Voice to interfere on many, many more issues than are on Burney's list today. For instance, Professor Megan Davis on the government's own referendum working group, one of the key architects here, crows that The Voice will be able to speak to all parts of the government, including even the Reserve Bank, or Centrelink, or the Great Barrier Marine Park Authority. And she says it'll advise on all kinds of matters, not just ones directly affecting Aborigines. Issues including, she says, environmental and climate policies. And Thomas Mayo is another member of this referendum working group designing The Voice. He has his own list of issues for The Voice to work on, and it's rather out there.
Pay the rent, for example. You know, how do we do that in a way that is transparent and that it actually sees reparations and compensation to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people?
And you know, Burney's out there giving false assurances here because Professor Greg Craven from the government's own constitutional law expert group advising on The Voice has already confirmed, yes, indeed, The Voice can advise on it what it damn well likes.
The Voice can comment on everything from sort of submarines to parking tickets, and there's every reasonable proposition that the courts will become involved in adjudicating representations, whether they've been made, whether they've been listened to.
So let me challenge Burney. Minister, if you really do want the Voice to stick to advising you on health and education, jobs, then rewrite your planned amendment to the Constitution to make that the law. But you won't, because your speech is all spin. I'll give you another example of that today.
I want the Voice to come up with fresh ideas.
Fresh ideas. Well, here again, the Voice is specifically designed so it will suggest nothing fresh at all. And that's because the designers of the Voice didn't want to create a rival group and a rival agenda that could have set the huge, massive, taxpayer-funded Aboriginal aristocracy that's been dominating government policy making for years. So they insisted the Voice's 22 members, only 22, they not be elected at all, but selected. By whom? Well, by the kind of Aboriginal bodies already advising governments. That's why I say, do not expect the Voice to suggest anything that's not already being pushed by the existing 30 big land councils, the existing 3,000 Aboriginal corporations, or by the Council of Peaks that's been advising the government formally for years. This Voice really frightens me. Australia risks making a shocking mistake that will change this country forever. Dividing Australians by race for the rest of our lives will not just be immoral, but disastrously divisive. And if this speech today is really the best case that the Minister for Indigenous Affairs can make for the Voice, then the answer, please, must be no.